Good afternoon. My name is Haley Nicole Prentice, and I am a lifelong resident of Arkansas. And for most of my life, I have lived in Lincoln County. I have lived in other areas of the state, including in the Delta and Central Arkansas. But Southeast Arkansas has always been my adopted home. Today, on the 31st of March, 2026, I'm going to present 3 works of my original poetry to commemorate Transgender Day of Visibility. I hope you will find this uplifting and fruitful. My first work I'm going to read is The Girl She Always Was. She was born in the Arkansas Delta nearly 6 decades ago, a child of 2 Arkansans from different regions. Her hair was dark brown, as were her eyes, but she was assigned male at birth by a small-town doctor, thus given a boy name. She had trouble speaking. She could read from an early age. Her love of reading started early, but math would bewilder her and become an albatross. She always had girl friends, a first cousin, and later other sister figures. But because she had a boy name and looked like one, she was supposed to play the role of Romeo, but was more comfortable being Juliet. In high school, she wanted to be a homecoming queen. She looked longingly at the cheerleaders. She could be neither then, because those with boy names and boy parts couldn't wear the gown or cheer for her high school. She began to worry about her soul. Something wasn't right about her. She felt like a girl but looked like a boy. The girl inside turned to faith. That didn't change her, but only buried her true self. After high school, she fell into a rabbit hole of uncertainty. She was a late bloomer at dating as a boy. After a time, she met 2 cheerleaders from another school. She wanted to be like them, but had to adopt the role of an admirer instead. She would go on to college, but her career path took a strange turn. She nearly had a nervous breakdown after a lost job and retreated back to her parents' house, still wearing male clothing. The girl inside revisited an old hobby and soon acquired her ham radio ticket. She sought distant voices, even as a voice close to home was calling her to hear. She would meet her first spouse, who had no idea her husband was a girl inside. They would divorce. Then she met an older woman who married her as a guy, but that didn't last either. 15 years after a dark-haired cheerleader cracked open her heart, the girl with a boy name and parts began to emerge from the shadows, in baby steps at first, crawling, then walking, then running. She began to catch up with her lost past. Making up for lost time was her goal. She did so slowly, though. Her dad didn't see her as a daughter, but as a son he gave his name to. Upon the death of her father, the girl with a boy name and parts vowed to become whom she was openly, legally, and authentically. COVID lockdowns and her aging joints almost derailed plans, but she was ever determined to take care of business. 11 days before her 58th birthday, she started her physical journey. It would not be an overnight transformation. She would need time to adjust. The changes would take place in due time. She would eventually come out at work and change her name in the courts. Finally, with the girl with a boy name and boy parts, had a name that was more appropriate, even as the boy parts remained in place but retreated. After years of hiding in plain sight, she was ready to live openly. Some were bewildered. Some longed for the man she previously appeared to be. a man that never really was. As the youthful-looking trans elder approaches 60, she was reminded of how far she has traveled. Even if she has never left her country of origin, her journey has been eventful, even when there were delays and detours. We all have a purpose. Sometimes we don't understand. Sometimes we are tested and taught lessons. Sometimes the best things in life are not what most desire, but the things that truly make us happy. This next poem is about someone I met 20 years ago. She's not from Star City, but she originally lived in one of the towns south of here before she moved to Central Arkansas. The name of this poem is My Last Crush of an Ex-Cheerleader. My somewhat closeted and film... Okay, I'm going to read this again. I messed up. Sorry. I can always edit this out. Okay. 1, 2, 3. This poem is entitled My Last Crush of an Ex-Cheerleader. My somewhat closeted self in film saw her nearly 20 years ago sitting at a table during a pride event. Her bleached and multicolored hair, her big smile, first drew my attention. A couple of years later, she paid the price of standing up for her stances. Fired from her job for holding a sign, the comment section of a media outlet outed her. I defended her actions and caught wrath from her detractors. Months later, I stepped into a now defunct lesbian space in the capital city. She was singing with the drag queens that night, but she wasn't a boy in drag nor trans, and yet I admired her courage and beauty. In due time, I would befriend her. She had a masculine sounding name for a woman, just like someone I met 2 decades earlier, that had a sultry southern accent, but her hair wasn't dark. It wasn't long before I disclosed my truths. My admiration was genuine, and so was my intergender. She didn't run away. Instead, she leaned into platonic friendship, which wasn't consolation for me, and I accepted. Sometime later, we crossed paths at an event. Someone took a photo of us. I was presenting masculine. I smiled and looked very happy around her. She realized my boy moding days were drawing to a close, and I would soon embrace sisterhood and her allyship. That woman's then occupation was teaching. She was an inspiration to her students and a lightning rod to a few parents who wanted to relive a nostalgic era where LGBTQ plus youth stayed deeply hidden. I found out she was once a girl in South Arkansas before she became a cheerleader and graduated from the big city high school. Unlike me, which was an alum of a school which had only 17 in her class and no prom. Unlike a quarter century before, this wasn't a repeat of a liminal crush. Instead, she would become what I had hoped for in 1987, what I couldn't be back then. She married in a previous life, as I did. She married again long after I met her. I wasn't among her wedding party. She looked happy in the pictures, or appeared to be. Smiles can be an illusion, though. The new bride settled into her new life. She struggled with her expectations, echoes of another girl I knew years earlier. The pandemic only made things worse, and her marriage unraveled quickly. My friend began going, okay, let me start that over again. My friend began going through her own journey of truth and reconciliation, not the same as mine, but just as life-changing, and our paths began to shift. Her life veered away from that she led some years earlier. She met someone, then exiled away from a popular social media platform we both had in common, and then drifted away. We were both Gen Xers, myself at the beginning, she from the end. We had very much in common and very little, but it mattered that we met in the middle for a while. This next poem is one that I've never read before publicly, but is a rewrite of some previous work. And it is about someone who grew up here in town. I met many, many years ago. I didn't know her very well, and we sort of just crossed paths almost by accident. But she left a huge impression on me, for better or worse. And as they say in the modern language, I call feelings for her, unfortunately, for better or worse. But that was then, this is now. But this is about how I dealt with a situation, and then that eventually led to my dealing with bigger issues. This is also an original work, as were the previous two poems. It's called Reckoning and Reconciliation. Almost 4 decades ago, I met a charismatic young woman from a high school I didn't attend. She was a cheerleader who grabbed my full attention at a basketball game. After a time, she started to live rent-free in my head. It was a crush then. She was out of my league. Her dad was a then pillar of the community. I really wanted to heed the warnings from friends and acquaintances. Crushes often turn into obsession. I fell for her hard, and I was over my head. I would eventually pull away, but not before she noticed my butterflies, manifest as being way too friendly for someone I was just acquainted with, and my mind didn't read her social cues. The years would pass. She would become a distant memory, but never forgotten. I was once a co-worker with her younger brother, but never asked him about his sister. I was still a guy with a girlfriend then. In due time, I would marry. My first spouse was a good girl, but we divorced and I dated again. My second spouse was more adventurous, almost like I was channeling my post-adolescent limerence. That marriage collapsed also. It was doomed to fail, but I rediscovered a part of me I kept hidden since youth. I wasn't a guy, but a closeted trans woman. I didn't date for a couple of years, but I met an older woman whom accepted me, at least in part. My authentic self was starting to emerge, but I needed to be whom I needed to be, and she set me free, and I accepted her decision. I never had a serious partner after that. There was work to do. Being authentic was a priority. It took many years, but I came to terms and accepted my fate. I would become a woman in the flesh and outside the closet. I came out to trusted friends, then to trusted blood family, then commenced medical transition, then coming out to my employer in the same hometown I once lived growing up. The world didn't end. Even with current events causing a moral panic, I began to reclaim and reconcile the old boy life and the new woman life, where the inner girl always lived and ate. As I approached my 40th high school reunion, I saw old yearbooks from my high school, as well as the nearby school where that cheerleader from 1987 was an alum. bringing back memories and old ghosts. The ghost would come back. I had to deal with unfinished business. It wasn't to reunite, but a reckoning of my complicit role in a sordid tale of validation, longing, and ache. As a free woman approaching her 60s, I may cross paths with my former unrequited interest, a woman old enough to be an AARP now, likely with her now graying hair I never thought about 4 decades ago. If I ever do see her, I will do so as equals in this era, not as someone still idealized on a pedestal, nor as the love interest that got away, but as someone I crossed paths with many years ago. And thank you for watching. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off.